Hello, 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 and welcome. If you don't know me, my name is Lee Cara. This is a version of Unleash Your Light. I am live right at this moment on Facebook. If you're catching this on a replay, hello there. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. We're going to talk about some weird stuff today. We're going to talk about the world. We're going to talk about America. We're going to talk about reality. We're going to talk about shifting perception, and some people may not like what I have to say, but that's okay. I always go into everything with an open mind. I hope you will go into it with an open mind. You don't have to agree with me, but I think that it's always good to have an open mind to other people's opinions, even if you don't agree. That's how you find out how you're similar. See, if you only listen to people who are just like you, then you think that only people that are like you have similarities. But if you look around at the rest of the world, and especially those people who have opposite opinions of you, who think differently than you, and you listen to them long enough, you will also find the similarities that you have with them. That is empathy. That is connection. So, that's what we're going to talk about today. Like I said, you don't have to agree with me. That's okay. That's okay. Everyone has a right to whatever they want to believe, and that's fine. All I ask is that you come into this conversation with an open mind, an open heart, ready to see things from a different perspective, even if it's just for the 20 or 30 minutes that we're here. Okay? So I'm going to. So, everybody looks around. Here we are in the States in this crazy time that we're in, and more divided than we've been in decades, I feel, and and yet more united than we've been in decades. And as a spiritual person, many of us on this journey have followed very different paths um, to their own version of truth. And many times it is opposing versions of truth. Many times it is opposing versions of truth within the same path, believing two different things at the exact same time that are different and yet also existing in the same space. Um, but I wanted to compare what's going on to something that is not political and something that is not one side gets this and one side doesn't, to an experience that many of us have had. I want to liken our experience right now in the world, in our country, I'm specifically speaking about America, to a marriage. And let me start with this. There are many layers to reality. There are many layers to reality. So if we are thinking about reality, let's think of it like a pond, okay? And every layer of that pond has a different subset of life, a different temperature, different little things crawling around, different dangers, right? And so it's a different truth at every layer of this pond that we're in. And there are people who are saying, ignore all the top layers because everything that's happening at the bottom is the most important. That's the real truth. But you have to go through the layers of gators and what is in between those layers of gators at the top to those things that dwell in the depths of the pond. So you have to go through all of the layers that show and deal with what is there before you can get to the stuff at the bottom, okay? Before you get to that truth that a lot of people are carrying as proof that they know more than a lot of other people and that they are superior and that everyone else is a sheep. Not a very kind thing for a person to say to anyone, much less a spiritual person, okay? So, again, you don't have to agree with me. Just have an open mind for a few minutes as we discuss how this situation is like a relationship, is like a marriage. Okay. So, I'm specifically thinking about marriage back in the late 60s, early 70s. So, if we go back on the institution of marriage in general, the man was in charge of the woman. The woman was basically had to do anything that the man asked. She was his possession in a way. Women didn't get the right to vote until the 20s ish. I don't remember the exact date. You couldn't have a credit card or a bank account as a woman until the 70s. You had to have a married account. In some places, a woman wasn't allowed to drive a car by herself. Um, so a man was in charge of the woman. Okay. And in that sort of a relationship, we can see the balance of power, right? The man holds most of the power. Now, many men will say, I would never use that power in that way. I would never hurt her. I would never turn on her. It is my job to take care of her. And yet, there is an automatic trapping of the woman who is now at the mercy of the man. The woman is automatically behooven to the man. Now, this was the past. Anyone who's tuning in, we're talking about the way that marriage was structured in the past. It sets up a power structure of a woman who's not allowed to work, is now completely dependent on the man for her entire livelihood. Okay. So now we're going to push this marriage forward into the 50s, into the 60s. Things start to change, right? Women start to stand up for themselves. Women's lib starts to come through, feminism, right? In the early 70s, women start to go out and they get jobs and divorces start to go up. I don't want to stay with this man I don't want to be with, or a man does something, cheats or whatever. Now the woman feels more empowered to go and leave this man rather than stay there and try to just keep taking it, right? But on that journey of that marriage, where the woman is finding her independence, where the woman is recognizing the balance of power that they have always lived in, where they were less than the man. And it's not something that the man ever said, you're less than me. The kindest man in the world in a marriage that's set up like that still holds the power, still has the ability to push that woman down, to keep her from achieving what she needs to achieve, to keep her trapped in a situation because she can't really escape, because there's nothing for her to escape to, right? So in the late 60s, early 70s, let's say that wife starts to speak up. That wife starts to speak out and says to the husband, I don't like that you make me stay home. I don't like that you look at me and think that I'm not as smart as you. I don't like it when I go to the grocery store and they ask if where's your husband before I pay for the groceries. I don't like it when people treat me like I'm not good enough to drive this car by myself and the police pull me over and ask me where's my husband. I don't like having to depend on you for my bank account. I want money of my own. And the man's response is, know your place. Don't worry. You're taken care of. You just keep cleaning the house. You just keep taking care of the kids. Everything is fine. No, it's not fine, she says. It's not fine. I'm not happy like this. Can't you see how this is controlling me? Can't you see how this holds me down? And he says, no, honey, that's all in your head. It's all in your head. I would never hold you back. I support you 100%. You do whatever you need to do. And the woman says, well, I'd like to get a job. No. Well, I want a bank account so I can invest in something. No. Well, I have this degree that I got when I went to college 10 years ago, and I'd like to go and do that now. Well, I guess you could have your little job and but I am the one who supports things around here. When she speaks up, she is silenced. She is told, no, that's not how things are. I don't control you. I don't control your life. Look, you went to the store today. You did a million things today. You didn't call and ask for my permission, right? And every time that a problem is brought up, honey, I don't feel like you're hearing me. I don't feel like you pay enough attention to me. I want our marriage to be more equal. I'd like to have a say in how we spend our money. I'd like to have a say in what we do, with our finances. I'd like to have a say in the hours that you keep at work. I'd like us to make these decisions together. And the man says, well, honey, isn't that sweet? Well, you can give your opinion, but I have the final word. I will have the final word on this because, I know what's best for us. Right? And when the woman says, you don't understand what I'm trying to say, he says, no, there's nothing wrong. You're crazy. You're crazy. There's no control going on here. You're crazy. The woman gets gaslighted. The woman gets mansplained, right? Now, we can all recognize this. And I'm using man and woman, but really any two people in a relationship where one is dominant and the other is not. So we're talking about marriages from back in the day. I'm not talking about the way a marriage should be now. So we can look at a relationship like that. We can look at a marriage like that. We can look at that in a movie or in a TV show or in our parents or in things that we've seen or in our own experience, right? And we can recognize the one who is in the power, the one who has the upper hand, is the oppressor, who belittles, diminishes, and demeans the needs of the person who is not in control. Okay? And who explains away every problem that they bring up, mansplains it away. Oh, yes, we'll deal with that. Oh, isn't she sweet? Bless her little heart. Or, no, I'm right, you're wrong, that's the way it is. You don't have a choice in the matter. You just keep doing the dishes. You just keep raising the kids. You just keep doing all that physical labor around our house. And I will take care of the rest. So we all recognize the balance of power in a relationship like that. So this is where I'm going to need you to step outside of your perceptions for a moment. If we look at what's going on in our country, in America right now, as a marriage, because we have two clear sides. One side is obviously in power, and the other side has for years been saying, but we're not an equal partnership. We would like more say in what goes on in this marriage. I want you to love me more. I want you to see me more. I want you to give me some more attention. I want us to make decisions in a more equal way. And the man, the one in control, in America, that would be the government, says, you're crazy. That's not happening. Look at all the things that you can do. Look at all the ways that you have come forward. I've allowed you to have so many new things, to have so much growth. I've created this for you. I've helped with the unemployment. I've given you rights. I've allowed you to live your own life. Now you just keep doing your work and you just keep cooking and cleaning and you just keep doing that. And we're going to take care of the big stuff, honey. Pat, pat, pat. Do we see the parallels between a marriage where the man or the one working holds the purse strings, holds the control, becomes the oppressor? Just automatically, not because he's trying to oppress his wife. He thinks he's trying to help his wife. He thinks he's taking care of his wife. But just by holding the power, just by the inequality, he immediately sets up an oppressor-oppressee relationship just by holding the power in a way that is unequal. This is what we are in our country. And it's not just this particular administration. It has been happening for decades. We had a time in the 90s, for those of you who are young enough to remember the 90s, we had a time where things started to become more equal. Things started to become, we were starting to step into this actual belief of equality while maintaining our own identities. Live and let live for everyone. And things started to shift. And then we crashed back down again. And then we crashed back down again. And the equality started to drift away again. So the stage that we are in right now, we went back to the older times, the 60s with the marriage, with this latest administration. And what's happening now is that time in the early 70s when women started burning their bras. When they started standing up and saying, I am equal to you. You don't get to tell me what to do just because you are a man. Do we see the parallels? Do we recognize this pattern of behavior? And what did the men say at that point? Oh, feminists, they're terrible. They want to destroy the family. They want to destroy this country. Everything that we were raised on, everything that we believe in. What you believe oppresses someone else. What you believe and what you think is right holds someone else down. Keeps them in chains. Keeps them less than you. Continuing to do things in the old way keeps the other parties less than you. Whether that is the Black community, the minority community, women, LGBTQ. When we continue to do things the way that we have always done them, without reform, without listening to the other voice, without it being equal, then what you have is a system where one side is in control and gives the other side the illusion of freedom, the illusion of equality, the illusion of choice. That is where we stand. We stand in a space with an oppressor who gives us, allows us to have some freedoms as they determine. Some equality as they determine. And when you point out this isn't equal, this isn't working, people are getting hurt, you get, no, that's not true. That's not true. You get gaslighted. You get mansplained. You get mansplained. This is what's happening in the country. So in a marriage, how do we fix that? In a marriage, how do we fix that? Do you love your partner? I love this country. We love this country. The people who are burning their bras, rising up, asking for equality, asking for change, asking things to be different. When your partner has put you off for so long and told you that you're crazy and that all the things that you think are happening are not really happening and you've been gaslighted for long enough, sometimes you cower and sometimes you stand up and you scream from the rooftops and you ask your partner for change. You demand change from your partner. Now, we can't divorce the other half of the country. We can't. But somehow we have to remind them that they love us. Somehow we have to remind them that we are in this together, that we are a team. Somehow we have to remind them that everything that we do on both sides is for the good of the marriage. It's for the good of the country. And pointing fingers and accusing and the horrible, rude lashing out that comes from fear, that comes from that fight or flight reflex, destroys a marriage, right? If you are reacting from your fear of losing your spouse, and you are cursing them out, and you are yelling, and you are throwing things, and you are calling them every name in the book, and bringing up every bad thing that happened, and picking apart every one of their arguments about why they deserve to be equal to you, or about why they're hurting you. What do we do in that space? How do we fix that? We've all been there. In our personal lives, we've all been there. How did we fix it? Oftentimes we've walked away before it's been resolved. We can't walk away from our country. We can't walk away from where we live. We can't walk away from the people on our block that are in control. We can't walk away from the ones who gaslight us. We have to remind them that we love them and that they love us. We have to remind them that we are all connected through the heart. We have to remind them that we're in this together. Because for better or for worse, we stand together. And we all just want what's good for our country, for our marriage. We just express it in different ways. We just interpret what's good in different ways. So many people in my spiritual community will say, all of this is a distraction. All of this is just stuff that they're doing to make us look away from the real stuff that's happening with the New World Order and all the Q stuff and whatever conspiracy of the day you are into, the Bill Gates thing, and believe whatever you want to believe. I'm not insulting anyone, I promise. However, to ignore what is happening at the top of the pond with the gators, to ignore the brutalization, the violence upon those who are oppressed, to remove and ignore and get through that, you have to go through what's on the surface to get down to the truth, because you might be so far under the surface that when you go back up to the top, there may not be much of a world for you to look at. We are the light workers, and rather than focusing on the big conspiracy that's underneath of everything and supporting someone who is actually destroying the surface, who is currently participating in destroying and gatorizing and eating everything on the surface, perhaps consider that focus on the truth underneath of what's happening is actually the distraction to the destruction that is going on above the water. And by telling you that you need to be focused on what is down there and ignore what is actually happening in the 3D reality that the rest of us are looking at, you are being taken out of the resistance. You are being taken out of the way. Your powerful spiritual strength is being removed from the 3D world that the rest of the humans are living in, because you're down in the depths, focusing on this incredibly deep underground conspiracy while the world is burning above you. I am asking you to focus with the rest of us on what is happening before our eyes, and not just the things that you are believing are happening behind the scenes. You can still focus on that, but actions are actually being taken. Things are happening that are destroying the humans that are living on the surface of the pond, on the surface of the earth. And we need you as part of that as well. You can believe all of your deep state stuff. You can believe all of that. But consider for a moment that that is being used to keep you out of the fight and to make you be accepting of what their leader, what the Savior is doing on the surface, convincing you to accept violence, hatred, anger, lack of compassion, valuing money over all, other things. Do those seem like the actions of a liberator? Do those seem like the actions of someone who is embracing love, who is tuned in to the universe, to the unconditional love energy of the universe? Do those seem like the actions that align with that? Take a very close look, not at all the little details and breadcrumbs of that, which is under the surface, but take a very close look at the actions that are happening at the top of the surface. They are chopping down trees. They are burning. They are burning the forest down around this lake, around this pond, while you are down at the bottom with your fire hose and your army. Shift your perception. Consider that you may be missing the point. I watched a video from Isaac Cappy, and those of you who believe all of the conspiracy stuff will know who he is. And it was his very last video that he did. And he wouldn't say what he actually did in it. He was found dead shortly thereafter. But what he kept saying was, I was focused on the wrong thing, and I led all of you down the wrong path. Even though all of that stuff that we've been researching and looking into is all true, could all be everything, and all of this stuff going on, I led so many of you down the wrong path because I wasn't focusing on my love and empathy. I was focusing on my anger and my hatred for that conspiracy stuff that was going on and all of those people that were doing wrong. I was so focused on tracking down every little line, every little clue that was leading us to this horrible underbelly of the world, that I stopped focusing on love, that I stopped seeing them through love, and that I led so many of you down that road towards hatred and anger. And I'm sorry. That was his last video. This man who championed the search for truth in the conspiracy. I'm not saying that you shouldn't believe in all of that stuff, believe in whatever you want. But do not neglect and ignore what is actually happening in this version of the 3D, in this layer of reality. Because most of the world lives in this layer of reality, and that is what we are trying to change. That is why you are awake, is to affect that layer of reality. That light that we shine is what will break up that underbelly of conspiracy and of pain and of hatred and of violence and of vile things happening. Our love, shining our love on it, is what changes that. Why do you think for so many years that racism has been such an underground thing? Like it hasn't been overt until Trump came into office. It was kind of like on the down low. If you were a racist, you really didn't say things like that. You didn't yell. It was very implicit. It was very like, but now people feel empowered to speak out that way, right? And it was because public opinion had shifted. It was because so many people in our community believed that it was wrong to be racist. And that shrunk that community. That made people start to change, start to look at their own actions, start to change how they acted in the world. We can do that with this conspiracy stuff that's at the bottom of the lake by changing the love, lifting and amplifying the love that is at the top layer that most of the world lives in. This is why you are awakened early, to affect the world around you through what you think, through the words that you say. Embrace love. Embrace light. Don't give in to anger, and yet face the fire that is happening before us. Stand up for those things on the surface. I know it's not easy. I know we're in a tumultuous time. And being a light worker, being an empath, being someone who's spiritual, being on a spiritual journey, being awakened, all of that in this time, some of you are asking, why the hell did I ask for this? Because you are powerful, because you are necessary, because you matter. It is time for you to embrace your strength, your leadership, your knowledge, your abilities. It's time for you to embrace love and stop distracting yourself with details of injustice and pain and violence. Yes, it sucks. You send love at it. You send healing at it. You send hope at it. That's how we manifest change, because we are embodying the light of the universe. The light of the universe is not hatred and violence. It is love. It is not smiting our enemies. It is loving our enemies. It is shining our light on them. It is helping them to understand that we are all in this together. That is the energy that helps people to put down their weapons and put down their hatred and change their words and change their minds and change their hearts. Ooh, we got a storm rolling in, guys. You hear that? The universe is listening. It was blue skies when I started doing this. You are the change. Be the change. Step into it. I love every single one of you. I'm super grateful that you've been listening. I love you. We're all in this together. You are beloved. You matter. You are loved.